Hello, everybody. You're very welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the teas and coffees and you're feeling caffeinated. So we're going to head into the second segment now. We've a great talk to start with coming from Kenia, who's our video specialist, and Michaela, who's our head of content. So this is a nice follow-on. So I suppose the pie chart I just showed you, showing that native and social are, dominating the digital landscape, really the fastest growing mediums in Ireland last year. One of the key commonalities between both native and social is they're content-based. It's not just, an offer or sofas are 10% off. It tends to be, there's a bit more in it than that. So this is a really relevant talk. Also following from Constantine, who was talking about a content bubble and content overload. So I'm delighted to welcome Michaela to the stage first to talk to you guys about critical content. Best of luck.
So yeah, Alan's just introduced there how content is so central to so many different areas of your digital marketing. But it is a challenging space as well. So myself and Kenia are going to talk a little bit about two particular content types that we think will really help you to stand out from all of that competition. So Kenia is going to talk about video, and I'm going to talk about 10x content, or big content, you might have heard us say as well. So there are a few reasons why you can't actually afford to ignore 10x content for much longer. So the first is we're very much in this space now where all the research shows that all your competitors are using content marketing more and more every year, and they're spending more on it as well. So really, it's no surprise that our audience is just completely overloaded by content. The second reason you can't ignore it really is to do with SEO. So Google came out recently, and they told us what their top 3 ranking factors were. The first, they said, this is one of their top guys saying this just a couple of weeks ago. The third top ranking factor is rank brain. The top 2 are content and links. So if you want to do well on Google, you better be paying close attention to your content. But the days where you could just create content and get results from it, fairly easily are long gone, aren't they? So Google has really been developing this really robust way to identify, the good quality content and separate that from the not so good quality content. And it does that with the Google Panda algorithm. So this came out in 2011, and it freaked a lot of webmasters out because, maybe a lot of webmasters at the time, they'd kind of mastered how to game Google a little bit. They knew how to use the keywords in clever ways and game their way into Google's top search results. Google Panda came along to stop that. So it does that in a few ways. These are some of the ways that it manages to stop these poorer quality results getting into their top pages. It targets thin content. It targets duplicate content. It takes note of on-site engagement, and this is really interesting because not only is it just looking at your actual content on your page, it's looking at how users are actually engaging with that, looking at those user signals. And it's taking note of content shared on social media as well. So we've got, our audience is overloaded with content. We've got Google's rising standards for our content. So we're left with a few challenges as content marketers. And that's why I really, really think that 10x content is brilliant, because it helps us to overcome these challenges. So 2 challenges I have. Getting found, okay? Tons of competition, only 10 spots on Google. Being visible on Google is critical to your success, so getting found, big challenge. And the second is winning engagement. So even if you do manage to get found very easily, actually getting that engagement from your audience is still, a big challenge, because not only are Google standards higher than ever, so are our audience standards, We have to think really carefully about how we're going to convince them that this piece of content is worth them spending their time on. They'll decide very quickly whether or not you're worth their time. So what is this 10x content I'm talking about? Well, I suppose I'll start by saying how you go about creating it. So it's a really simple process that goes into creating a piece of 10x content. You decide on your topic, check what exists already. So that means going to Google and having a look and seeing what's currently ranking #1 for that search term. And then ask yourself, could I create something that's 10 times better? And this is maybe more useful than it sounds at first, because this is actually giving you a really good idea straight up of the kind of level that you really should be aiming for with your content to make an impact these days. But we need to get a bit more specific. What does better mean? OK, so you could create something that's better than what's currently ranking #1 in Google by maybe creating something that's higher quality, maybe more trustworthy. Maybe you've got some industry experts on board, something like that. Maybe you can do something that's a little bit different in scope, a little bit more original, take a different angle. Maybe you can do a really good job at drawing an emotional response, causing fear, joy, whatever. Maybe you can do a really efficient job at helping your audience solve a critical problem that they have. Or maybe you can just make something that's much better looking than what already exists. Maybe you can use creative, maybe you can use images really well, maybe you can use video really well. So these are some ways that you could start to look at other content and decide, can you 10x it? And also, let me just be clear quickly what 10x does not mean. It doesn't mean that you need to create more content, and it doesn't mean you need a bigger budget. So some of you might know already who've gone down this route with us. The way we can kind of work this into content strategies is you might continue on with your regular routine content, maybe like your high-quality blog posts, that kind of thing. They're still really valuable. But every so often, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, you decide, you know what, I'm gonna pool all these content resources and I'm gonna invest them in creating one big piece of 10x content. And again, those of you who have tried this, I think you'll agree that it's these pieces that tend to deliver the biggest results when it comes to traffic, when it comes to engagement, when it comes to SEO wins, and longevity as well. It delivers on these three things just over a much longer period of time. So yeah, that's all great, but I think the best way to kind of explain this is with some case studies. I'll show you how we've actually used this process for 2 clients. So the first is Zurich. So Zurich's content strategy with us is very much focused on getting SEO wins. And in this case, we were looking at the savings and investments section of their website. We were looking at how we could give that section a boost through the use of content. So this was August last year, and we were thinking, OK, what can we produce content-wise that's of interest to our savings and investments audience this time of year? We can't just talk about savings and investments. That's boring, obviously. So we said, well, people do actually care about what their savings, what it allows them to do. So we thought, this is back to school time. Let's do something about cost of education. So next step, can we 10x it? So that's when we go to Google and we have a look and see what's ranking already for this term, cost of education. And we looked at this and we thought, we can absolutely 10x it because this was the extent of the creative that had gone into that piece that was ranking #1. We thought, it's essentially an Excel table, so we thought, that's it. That's our opportunity to 10x. And this is what we created. So I think you can see, what jumps out immediately is just that use of creative. It's the kind of 3 separate mini infographics dotted throughout, taking people on that journey of how much they can expect to pay for their kids' education from primary to 3rd level, and probably scaring the shit out of them as well. We also made sure to promote this on social media too. So Facebook, as ever, offered us the best targeting to reach this audience. What's interesting about this is that we included a competition element to this in the couple of weeks leading up to back to school time. So you can't see it here, unfortunately, but at the bottom of this page, we did have a competition where we asked a question based on the text and asked people to submit their answer and their details to be in with a chance of winning their back to school shopping list. And this is interesting because you remember what I said about Google Panda and how it looks at user engagement signals on your content. So what we're doing here is we were sending really targeted traffic to this page and giving them something to do on the page to keep them engaged. So so that was really interesting. And the results then. So in the couple of weeks, we got 500 competition entries, and that translates into high-value contacts for Zurich's database. You can see evidence then of the engagement with the page. Average time on page was 6 minutes plus. Being an SEO-focused project, you know, the SEO team were obviously very active about searching out those backlinks, got some really high quality backlinks to the piece. And I suppose, you know, the use of creative, driving the relevant traffic, giving that traffic something to do on the page, getting the backlinks, it all resulted in this thing that you can all see for yourselves if you wouldn't mind taking out your phones and doing a quick Google search for me, and it's cost of education. And I hope this works, because can people see Zurich Life in position 1 for cost of education? Good, good. Yeah, so they're in position 1 for cost of education, which is great, considering they would have been nowhere near the top 50 for this keyword before this piece. So what I really should be doing now is asking all of you to, you know, click on that link, go in, have a browse, spend some time with it, enjoy it, take it all in. But we don't have time for that today. But I know you'll all promise to do it over the weekend. But ultimately, okay, ranking number 1 on Google is great and all, but what was the end result we wanted to see? We wanted to see that lift to the savings and investments section of the website. So this is showing organic traffic landing on any page within that section. That's where we went live in the August. And organic traffic went on a lovely upward trend ever since then, and it has remained high ever since. So the result we were looking for. So my second and final case study is Virgin Media Business. It's a great one on how you can actually talk to your audience to identify some sort of problem they might be having, and then commit to solving that problem through your content. So for Virgin, this all started with a survey they were running anyway. They were asking SME decision makers about various topics. Using social media for business was one of them. And that's what we ran with. We got our hands on that data. We could go create an infographic. It was really fun and really interesting. However, all the while we were going through this and creating the infographic and all, there was one stat from the survey that I actually just couldn't get out of my head. And it was that while SMEs were, you know, they were really active and really, you know, enthusiastic about using social media, a massive 40% said that they felt they got 0% business growth from using social media, nearly half of them. So obviously you can see why the alarm bells were going off for me, because working with you guys every day, we knew that didn't have to be the case. We've seen the results SMEs get from using social media. So I thought this is definitely a problem that we can solve for this audience. So we committed to going ahead and trying to create a 10x ebook to help businesses with this problem. Now, if you're going to create content on using social media for business, you have to make sure that you're going to 10x it, because as you'll know well, there's tons out there already. And I was actually feeling pretty nervous about this. Like, I was stuck between feeling really excited about the opportunity that we'd found, but I was wrestling also with this, how can I make something that's better than all of that stuff that's already out there? But we focused, we looked at how we could 10x this. So we said, we'll 10x it by placing a big emphasis on design, big emphasis on case studies, and some of you guys actually helped us with the case studies. You allowed us to include yours, really made the piece, so thank you very, very much for that. Big focus on Irish case studies specifically, and solving the problem. So we weren't going to get caught in all sorts of tangents looking into all areas of social media. We wanted to focus on business growth. But as I said, this is when you're very entitled to just start to feel really, really nervous, as I did. Because committing to a piece of 10x content, it's a big deal. What if it doesn't work? It doesn't always work either. But the thing is, when you're coming from this place, where you're focusing on solving the problem, you've actually talked to your audience, you know what their problem is, you can feel a lot more confident about what you're about to go and produce for them. So we were very much focused on, this is how you can generate inquiries, leads, sales, and advocacy for your business. Specifically, we were talking about Facebook ads here. And this is the ebook that we created. So it was a 30-page ebook, as I say, packed with your case studies, thank you. And you can see the emphasis on design there as well. So the results from this, we've got 1,200 downloads and counting. And again, these do count as leads for Virgin, because we placed this behind one of these lead generation forms asking for a little bit more information before a user downloaded the ebook. It's been building Virgin's online authority as well. So unlike Zurich, where it was very much focused on SEO wins and backlinks and that kind of thing, this wasn't the case for this piece at all, but it's been doing that anyway. It's been getting backlinks like this one from bizplus.ie. And it's been assisting Virgin's offline PR as well. So Business Plus, the print edition, they saw it, they liked it, they wanted to feature 2 pages on it in their magazine. So this is something that we see time and time again with 10x content. It always it has this tendency of not just living online, it very often takes that step over into the offline as well and starts creating value there too. So yeah, safe to say when we're starting to see people picking it up in magazines, we feel very happy. So 5 key takeaways then before I hand you over to Kenia. Content overload, Google Panda, they've really raised the bar for our content. So use the 10x thought process. Consider ways to keep your audience engaged with your content. That little hack there with Zurich Life, that's just a suggestion. Take your user experience and creative really seriously. And if you're feeling nervous about going 10x, ask your audience. It's the absolute best place to start. And while I'm on the subject, a bonus takeaway, a Brucey bonus, here's some ways that you can start to get these nuggets from your audience, a few suggestions. So you could do a survey like Virgin Media did. It's not that difficult to do. You can get great stuff from it. Google Consumer Survey is a brilliant one. So it's not currently available to survey Irish audiences at the moment. I'm sure it's coming. But if you have any target audiences in the UK or in the US, this is a great tool to survey those audiences. And it's really cheap as well. And finally, do make sure that you're paying attention to the comments on your blog and the comments on social media. You can get great stuff out of that. We're always looking at these, and we do actually very often base future content on comments people have made on our previous content. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But Kenia will take you now through video. Thanks.
Hey guys, thank you, Michaela. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about video advertising. And this is a good thing because you can deliver your content in many, many ways, and video is one of them. And I will show you also the video formats that you can use to deliver your content in a different way. Not only, but I will show you as well where to promote that content. So as you know, we are more and more exposed with video now. We have it not only in TV, but in our mobiles and our tablets and PC. But what's the future of video? According to Cisco, 69% of all consumer-based internet traffic by next year will be video. And not only, but by 2019 will represent around 80%. So the future of video is looking pretty bright, guys. That's why we wanted to do this talk for you. So the 2 main ingredients for video success are having a great piece of content, great piece of video. And as Michaela was saying, it's not about making it longer, but maybe increase their quality. So maybe if you said, OK, instead of a 2 minutes video, let's do 1 minute video or 30 seconds, but let's put some work in their design, could perform even better. The other ingredient for video success is having great promotion. And here in Wolfgang, we can help you with that as well. And we can tell you maybe which platform will deliver the best results for your strategy. So let's get started with the video formats. These are the video formats that we have seen that give us the best results. And we have the animated video. And this one is basically a cartoon that is telling you a story. Then as well, we have the stop motion video, which is taking an unanimated object and make it live through movement. We have the live action video, which basically is taking your camera, start doing some clips, then put everything together to create a great video. We have the banner video banners. I will talk about this a little bit further in the presentation with one story that I have prepared for you. And we have the GIFs. And I think by this time, you have seen plenty, and you know what I'm talking about. So the cost. I know, guys, that this might be a big concern for you. And sometimes we are doing the proposals, and we think, oh, maybe they are thinking that we are doing them like this. We will charge you a lot, things like that. But that's not the case, though. Because when we send you the proposal, guys, we imagine you like this. And this doesn't have to be, because you can get your video assets for as little as €500, even less, and I will show you how. So these are the video formats. Maybe at the beginning you will see that the prices are a bit more costly. It's just because the creative team are doing a great job and putting too many hours creating these videos. And then I will tell you about other options that maybe can fit your budget better. The first one is animated video. We use this one for motivation. So as you can see, it can start for 5K. And these deliver more than 27,000 views for a cost per view of 1 cent. And we only put behind €200 for this campaign. So maybe you are wondering, why should I invest 5 grand and then only put 200 for behind the campaign, right? The thing is that video is an evergreen asset for you. So you will invest on these assets just once, and then you can use that content, video content, to promote it later on, and you won't have to spend that much on that. As well, you can use it also to embed it in your page. Maybe you do some keyword optimization in your video, and that can help you with your SEO tactics. There are many benefits that you can get from having a great video piece. We have the stop motion videos, and we have done this for Tesco. We are doing it at the moment as well. Start for 3 grand. And for only €100, we got around 2,000 video views for a cost of $0.25 cent. So this is telling you the power of video. This is telling you once you have invested, you can throw as little as possible if you want for your campaign, and you will see great results, great engagement, shares, and likes. This is the very, very last live action video that we have done. And this one we presented in the DMAs. And I will play it for you. Oh. So what were the results of this video? We almost lost Al in a mini wolf attack, but we have great drawing, so kind of balance. And before I continue with this, I would like to tell you the story. So you know that the main core, well, you know our promise are these 3 main things, but the core is innovation. So we always try to give you something new, to try something new, because that can give you an advantage over your competitors. So last year, I was working with Sports Direct and summer soccer schools, and we were promoting the summer camps. And I was doing their AdWords and their Facebook. And then one night, I was sleeping, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said, what if I take a banner from the display in AdWords and then reformat it and create a GIF out of the banner that I can then promote in Facebook? Sorry, Google, about that. And I was super happy, super excited. I went with Daryl, and he helped me out. He gave me a really, really, really well done GIF. And I tried to upload it in Facebook, and it didn't work. So Facebook finally adds animated GIFs, but not for brand pages, so not for promotion. And at that point, I was like, Facebook? I had a great idea, and then you're taking it away. But of course, it was in my desk, so I tried to keep it very professional. And maybe I look like that. So what I'm trying to say with these guys is that it doesn't matter. Sometimes we have great ideas, and sometimes that innovation comes from frustration, and that's OK, as long as it works. So we created a video, not a GIF, out of a banner. And this is the display banner. As you can see, you have some pictures, the price of the camp, you have when the camp starts, when does it end, and also you have your call to action, book now. And it lasts only 12 seconds. So what were the results of combining Google and Facebook? We spent in the promotion of this video around 1,000 euro, and we got back from direct responses or conversions, 13,000. So yes, sometimes video can help to get direct revenue. Not in most of the cases, but depends whether you promoting, you can get also revenue results. The best thing about this is that its cost is 0, because we have created this banner, and the only thing that we had to do actually is reformat that for you. So that's how repurposing all the creative assets could be a good idea. And we didn't stop there. We said, OK, Facebook didn't allow us to upload the GIF. Let's ask Google. And we upload the GIF. We created this GIF for Tesco. And we upload it in YouTube, and we promote it. OK? Again, this is another option that we have in terms of video. And it is not expensive at all. You can get it for as little as 500 euro. And delivers great results. With only 200 euro, we got almost 50,000 views for a cost per view of 2 cents. So now that you know the options, pick one. And ask you, like, where is the best place to promote your videos? So nowadays, we have more and more options than before. But the two biggest platforms that will deliver the best results are YouTube and Facebook. And just to give an idea how Facebook has grown in the past years, Facebook said that in April last year that Facebook users watch around 4 billion daily views. And this number doubled by October. And when you see billions, that sounds pretty impressive. But critics weren't happy with this. And they called Facebook liar because they weren't streaming more video than YouTube. And why is this? Basically, both of them count a view in a very, very different way. So imagine that we have this video. I know that you might recognize it. So, and if we wanted to promote this video in YouTube and in Facebook. So YouTube will count this as a view when it reaches the 30-second mark, if your video is longer than 30 seconds. If your video is shorter, you have to see the full video in order to be counted as a view. Whereas in Facebook, a video view is counted only after the first 3 seconds, OK? So you could say, well, that's the thing. Maybe one YouTube video view will represent around 10 Facebook video views. And I think that they realized that maybe only views weren't the best metric, or yeah, it's great to have views, but there should be something else in order to measure your video performance. So finally, Facebook gave us some other metric. And this year, they announced that people watch around 100 million hours of video a day in Facebook, which is impressive. But only not even a week after that, the CEO of Google said, oh, that's a great job, Facebook. But just a quick reminder to my investors, people in YouTube watch hundreds of million hours of video in our platform, OK? So this is what is happening right now. We have this video battle between the two of them. And even if it's entertaining to watch, we shouldn't be concerned that much about them, but about you. So that's why we create a study. We promote a video in these two platforms, and we will tell you which one you should use after the Prosecco break. Thank you so much. Brando? Thanks.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks a million to Michaela and Kenia for that. So moving swiftly along, really good talk now. Another quick show of hands. Who in 2016 is going to be migrating some of their offline budget online? Hands up if this is something you're doing. Okay, great. Lots of people. Right, this talk is going to be interesting for everyone and super relevant for you guys. So delighted to welcome Brendan back up to talk about migrating your offline budget online.
Great. This is going to be easy then if lots of you are planning to do this. So I'm going to talk to you about migrating your offline budget online. And I'm going to do that by making a case for online channels as a viable alternative to some of your online channels. And I'm also going to show you a really recent case study. I just want to caveat all this by saying this is not sponsored by Google. This is completely independent from Wolfgang Digital. And let's start with this stat. So in 2015, digital advertising spend growth in Ireland outpaced that of the European average. It was double that of the European average. In 2015, digital advertising spend grew by about 29% in Ireland compared to the European average of about 13%. Just to put that into context, our total digital spend in 2015, this is an IAB figure, was about 340 million, okay? So what does that look like? Well, that actually represents about 40% of our overall marketing spend. So what I mean by that is that 40 cents in every advertising euro is going online. So that might seem like an impressive figure, but let's have a look and see how we stack up against some other geographies. And what we can see, in actual fact, is that we don't even make it into the top 5. So the UK are leading the charge at about 50%. Then we have Norway, China, Australia, and Denmark. The UK were actually at about 40% 4 years ago. So you could say we're about 4 years behind the UK. So although digital advertising spend growth is happening, our message would be it's absolutely not happening quickly enough. So what can we do to stimulate further growth in digital advertising spend? Well, the easy answer is to spend lots more money and to increase our budgets. But you're not going to thank me for having to go back to your boss and just ask for more money. And also, that doesn't really address the proportion that we spend on digital, that challenge that we're facing. So it means that the money's going to have to come from somewhere else. And where else is it going to come from? Well, let's have a look at how we consume media. This is a great study that was carried out in the UK in 2014, and it's called the Digital Day Diary. And they set out to understand how much time people spend consuming different types of media. So you can see here they've determined we spend about 44% of our time online. This is in 2014, so that's probably gone up. 35% on TV. And then there's that little blue sliver at the top. That's press. We spend about 1 to 2% of our time consuming press. So we thought it'd be interesting to have a look at where we're actually spending our advertising euros. I've already told you that about 40% of it's going online, so you can see we could immediately up that. TV is thereabouts, about 30%. The standout figure for us, though, is this. In 2015 in Ireland, 20% of our advertising budget went on press. So that's 20 cents in every advertising euro went on a media that we spend 1 to 2% of our time consuming. That seems a bit mad. So let's do a little show of hands. Put your hands up if you've read a real-life newspaper today, not an online version, the type that gets your hands all black and white and dirty. Okay, I could see about 5 hands. Okay, cool. So put your hands up if you've been on social media today. Like, that's bonkers, isn't it? And like, that's why we've been wondering, why are we over-indexing on such a legacy media? And we've been thinking about that a lot in Wolfgang Digital. And there's lots of reasons that could be the case. A couple of the reasons that's come to mind are firstly this one, which is that there's really bad information circulated in the public domain. This is pretty ironic. Here's a tweet from I&M of a photograph of a print ad they ran. And the print ad is actually for a study they carried out, which they're promoting quite aggressively at the moment. And the study they've called the Book of Evidence, okay? And if you didn't know any better, some of the evidence within the Book of Evidence is unbelievably compelling, right? And I'll share some stats with you. So according to this study, 25% of all retail sales can be attributed to press. That's bonkers. And according to this study, for every €1 you spend on press, you can make €39 in sales. So you guys know that we love a metric called ROAS, okay? And a really nice ROAS is about 4, 5, or 6. With press, according to this study, you can get a ROAS of 39. So if we didn't know any better, we'd only ever spend our advertising euros on press. But we do know a lot better. We've been trying to find the data that backs this study up, but it's really hard to get our hands on it. All we know is that apparently they interviewed people at the point of purchase. So they interviewed somebody when you bought a newspaper and asked them, did he buy a newspaper, and then what did he do? So it's kind of hard to believe some of these statistics. So in addition to there being bad information out there, we also have really influential people backing press. So this guy's name is Sir Martin Sorrell. If you don't know him, he's the CEO of the world's largest advertising agency, WPP. And he also commands the biggest corporate salary in the world. He looks like he smells of money. Every picture I tried to find of him, he just looks stinking rich. And here's a quote from Sir Martin Sorrell, and to paraphrase him, he's saying, a lot of people are ragging on press, but it's probably better than they're given it credit for. So that begs the question, why would such an important and influential man back a media like press? I could get in a lot of trouble for speculating why that might be, so I'm not going to speculate at all. And I'm going to move on to a case study from our client, Tesco. So Tesco felt that they were over-indexing on press. And they came to us and they decided, what they wanted to do was look at an alternative way to spend their advertising budget online. And Tesco have a lot to talk about. They have a lot of trade messages. So you guys know Tesco, they have daily and they have weekly trade messages. And they relied heavily on press to communicate them. So they set us a challenge, which was to try and find a sustainable and an effective way to communicate those trade messages, but do it online. But the Tesco team are really savvy, so they wouldn't give us their entire press budget, they just gave us a portion of it. So they gave us 30% of their press budget, and we had to come up with an online campaign. So our first challenge was to work out which channels we were going to use. So we've got quite a great choice, and in a perfect world, with an unlimited budget, we'd maybe trial every single channel, but we didn't have an unlimited budget and we didn't have unlimited time. So we needed to think strategically about what channels we were going to select. And the way we did that was by coming back to the press KPI, okay? Because press is bought based on reach. So you buy press based on how many people you're going to reach. So if we're going to run a digital campaign, reach needs to be a really important KPI, particularly if the campaign is going to be comparable. But because it's going to be a digital campaign, there's lots of other metrics we're going to measure as well. I'm going to share them with you later on. So let's talk about press reach. So press reach is actually calculated from press circulation. And these are the circulation figures from 2015. You can see way out in front is the Sunday Independent, which is circulated to just over 200,000 people. Now, depending on who you talk to, you calculate press reach by either multiplying that figure by 2 or multiplying it by 3. So the rationale here is that if I buy a newspaper, it could be read by multiple people. So let's be super optimistic and say the Sunday Independent is circulated to, reaches 600,000 people. Okay? So if the Sunday Independent reaches 600,000 people on a Sunday, this is going to be easy because Facebook reaches 1.6 million people every single day of the week. So that's going to be the starting point for our strategy. The campaign is going to start on Facebook. We're going to show people trade ads on Facebook. We're going to bring them to the website. And then we're going to support that activity with other channels, including YouTube, Taboola, which is a content promotion platform, some mobile-only display. We're going to have Facebook in there again as a supporting secondary channel as part of a remarketing tactic. And then the whole purpose of this campaign is to drive people into store. So it'd be great if they bought online with Tesco, but the majority of Tesco's business actually occurs in store. A really important part of creating this journey is going to be our creative treatments to it, right? Because we've worked really hard with Tesco to try and improve engagement within their social channels. And the last thing we want to do is to go out on Facebook and ram trade messages down people's throats and negatively impact our engagement rate. So we need to think how we're going to creatively treat every single asset that we're going to deploy. So it started with Facebook. Just to show you, this is what we're up against. This is a typical Tesco trade ad, a few products, and there's your price point, and maybe a tagline. So we started on Facebook, and we wanted to leverage the various different ad formats that exist. So here's an example of us using multi-product ads in Pancake Tuesday, where we show various different products. The user can then cycle through them. Take note of the fact that there's lots of comments and shares there. I'm going to come back to that later on. Where the products had the same offer or the same price point, again, our creative team could build out one image. And again, we could tailor that targeting to match that particular offer. And again, lots of comments and shares on an ad. I'm going to come back to that later on. Then we moved on to Taboola. So Taboola is a content promotion platform, allows you to deploy your content on really well-known publications, including the Irish Mirror. Where Taboola is going to work really well for us is where we have supporting content. So on this particular example, on this particular week, Tesco's offer was related to cleaning products. So then the content team built out some content related to that. So is it possible to clean your house in 10 minutes? So we often get up here and talk about content marketing, and we're talking about the rock and roll content marketing. But this is the other end of the spectrum of content marketing. It's the equally important but equally challenging, really boring subject matter stuff, okay? And the content team worked really hard to come up with these types of content. And believe it or not, that was the most read piece of content on Tesco's blog that particular month. So it absolutely worked. And then we also wanted to use we also wanted to use YouTube. And Kenia did a great job of explaining how we've been hacking YouTube. So the creative team, again, would build out some GIFs, then they'd stitch them together, and then they'd save them as a video file. What we wanted to do here was to leverage the powerful targeting that exists on YouTube. And we wanted to include YouTube as part of our remarketing journey as well. But we wanted to do it really cost effectively. We didn't want to have a massive creative cost for producing video. And this hack that Kenia talked about allowed us to do it cost effectively. Alan mentioned at the very start that everything we do at Wolfgang Digital is now underpinned by an audience strategy, and this project was no different. So we're building audiences within Google Analytics. We're also using cookies and pixels from Facebook, and then Tesco are sharing their email CRM with us, and we're able to target those users across various different networks as well. And that means we can create a journey. So if somebody sees one ad on one platform, we can then remarket to them and re-engage them on another platform. So let's have a chat about results, and I'm going to break out the reach results, because reach was a primary KPI that we wanted to demonstrate that we could beat with an online campaign. So typical press reach for Tesco was just under 300,000. The cost per reach was about 15 cents. Facebook allows us to accurately measure reach, okay? So with a fraction of budget, with Facebook we reached over 800,000, and our cost per reach was only 1 cent. YouTube also allows us to measure reach. It's cookie-based reach, but it's still reach. With YouTube, we reached just over 200,000 people, and our cost per reach here was less than 1 cent. So when it comes to reach, Facebook and YouTube can blow press out of the water. But beyond reach, there's so many other benefits to this campaign living online. And this is one of them. We've called this dark social. So I've shown you this ad before. So this is an ad related to baby products. And we were targeting people with kids, and we were asking them or encouraging them to tag their friends or tag people they knew had children. And that's exactly what they did. But what's interesting here is the reach figure that I've given you only accounts for these first 4 people here. As soon as they tag their friends, these people, that's incrementally more reach. But it's dark reach. We can't see that. And the great thing about that is that it bumps up our reach figure, even though we can't calculate it. And it also encourages brand advocacy and builds trust. Because now what's happening is Tesco are no longer communicating a trade message. Other people or people's friends are telling people about Tesco's trade. So we build trust and advocacy that way. It also meant, with this campaign online, that we could leverage really niche targeting. And this is a great example. This is an offer for dog food. So within Facebook, we can target people we know have dogs. We can target dog lovers, and we can target people who like particular dog breeds. The great thing about this offer is that it ran for 2 weeks. In the first week, we didn't run it on Facebook, and there was no advertising. The second week, the only advertising that happened for the offer was on Facebook. Tesco are able to look at our in-store sales figures, and they could see a 70% uplift in-store for dog food when we ran it on Facebook. So that's great proof that this strategy is absolutely driving in-store sales. We're also able to tackle some of Tesco's other challenges like this. So they'll often have products that are on offer, but they're only on offer in really specific stores. Like this offer is for a Hoover and was only on offer in Maynooth. So using something called local awareness ads, we can create an offer that only targets the environs of Maynooth. So again, this isn't something that Tesco would have been able to do on press, but we can accommodate it using a particular targeting type within Facebook. So beyond reach, what else does 30% of your monthly press spend get you? So we've told you that we've blown reach out of the water. But in addition to reach, we got over 52,000 video views using that video hack I showed you. We also got over 98,000 clicks to the website. And then really importantly, we got over 1,100 comments and shares. So reach was an easy one. Reach was an easy one for us to beat. But in addition to that, there's all these other ancillary benefits that the campaign living online gives us. So I'm going to wrap up with some takeaways. Number 1, you're spending too much on press, irrespective of how much you're spending. Number 2 is try and understand how your customers are consuming media and let that inform your marketing strategy. And number 3, if reach is your KPI, Facebook will blow it out of the water and they'll do it cheaper as well. And then number 4, use digital to help you build a multi-channel approach. What I mean by that is that somebody reads your press ad and they turn the page and it's game over. Whereas if somebody sees your trade ad on Facebook, you can re-engage them, you can show them another ad, or you can show them a really relevant piece of content. Thanks a million for listening.
Sure. Okay, brilliant stuff, Brendan. Hopefully that was relevant, particularly those people who are in the midst of such a journey right now. So next up, we've got a guest Google speaker. Google's mission is to organize the world's information. So whenever they have something to say, I like to sit up and take notice. Stephen Drumm is our main man in Google, and he's a veteran of talking at the Foundry here. So please put your hands together, give him a very warm welcome.
Thanks, Alan. Hi, everyone. Like Alan said, my name's Stephen Drumm, and I work on the Agency Ireland team here, partnering very closely with the guys over at Wolfgang. So thanks a minute for having me in here today, and I'm going to bring you guys through a kind of quick 10-minute intro into the world of export, one of those words that gets thrown around a lot and scares a lot of folks. So what I'm going to show you guys is a few tools and resources that Google can provide with you in line with Wolfgang to actually help you guys to size the prize in terms of what export opportunity exists out in the market, and then what you can do about researching it and understanding how your business could take a bit of this pie. So, first, real quick question. 3 billion people online globally. We hear a lot of stats and stuff put around rooms today. Like, let's look for a share of hands here. Who in this audience thinks that 3 billion people online globally is like the most amazing stat you've ever heard? Like, I can't believe it. I'm going to get on my phone right now, tweet it. The world needs to know this. How has no one else heard of this number? Who's like gobsmacked by that? No one? That fact gobsmacks me, okay? Because when you think about it, let's take a little step back in time with me, journey back, 1500s, junior cert certificate exam question, Magellan, maybe we did it? No? I flunked it. Anyway, Magellan, let's put it in his perspective. If you told him that number, he would absolutely his pants. So, right. Magellan, back in the 1500s, he was asked to go on an expedition by the Spanish king over to the West Indies to establish this western kind of spice route so that they could, import and export spices from the West Indies and kind of grow their economy. This task took Magellan and 100 other, crew, a fleet of ships, 3 years to actually complete, to get there, circumnavigating the globe and finding this new revolutionary path to export. It also resulted in his death, which was kind of weird, but let's not talk about that. So the challenges that lay ahead of Magellan in comparison to the challenges that lay ahead of you are a little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities that existed in that challenge. For example, cost. It was a very expensive expedition. I know cost can be something that comes to mind when we look at export. Time. For him, it was 3 years, but for us, it's the time to actually sit down, do the research, understand the market, and then also the time that's involved in things like shipping and just in general building your strategy. And then the main one, which we're going to help you guys with today, was uncertainty. Now, uncertainty for Magellan was sea monsters, the edge of the world, would you fall off the side of it, or is there something on the other side? As well as everything else that comes along with a lot of dangers. But uncertainties for you guys could be, does your audience want you to come into that market? Is there actually sales opportunities out there for you? And we're going to show you guys how to find out that information and how to build strategies around it. Another whopper big number to put out there, $1.4 trillion in e-commerce sales worldwide, back in, I believe it was in 2014. Now, that's a massive number that, again, probably doesn't shock you, but let me put it into perspective. The GDP of Ireland combined only makes up 6% of that number. So if there was a diamond in the rough out there along you guys who are able to build a business that's bigger than the GDP of Ireland, you'd still only be gathering 6% of the opportunity that international e-commerce presents to you. This is something to think about. And finally, 1 in 3 people would buy if products or services were cheaper or of better quality from a customer abroad. So this idea that people buy local and they only buy their own, well-known brands, whatever it might be, or expect larger brands to deliver the most quality at the best price is starting to slowly disappear. Like Constantine said earlier, the world's getting smaller. The idea of borderless, communities is becoming more prominent, and the idea that we all live in this small, open world is definitely becoming at the forefront of what we're doing in digital. So I mentioned these 3 export barriers earlier: cost, time, and uncertainty. And we know that you guys face these every day when you're looking at export opportunities, be it in the EU, be it in Asia, be it in the States, wherever it is you're looking at. But what I want to help you guys today to overcome is that niggly one at the end, which is uncertainty, because that's the one that causes us the most problems when we're looking at researching online and figuring out digital strategies to enter new markets. So summarizing this, I'm going to show you a few tools and resources that Google have for free. Everything you see here you can find on thinkwithgoogle.com, or you can just search for it on its own and you'll be able to find it. They're all free tools that are there to aid you guys to make better decisions, to find new sales opportunities abroad. We're also going to help you to communicate in any language, as well as understanding your audiences and developing unique local strategies for those new audiences that you found online. And this is all about reaching new customers. So tying this in with your digital strategy and building a platform that will be able to export abroad your fantastic products and services. So the first one I wanted to show you is called the Global Market Finder. Okay, so again, this is all on thinkwithgoogle.com, or you can look for Global Market Finder. And what the Global Market Finder does is allow you to take keywords or search terms or even just a few brand names, whatever it might be, pop it in there and look at a lot of different factors, such as what kind of demand can you expect in certain markets. So in this example, I've taken shirts, custom shirts, tailored shirts as a few top converting keyword terms for one of my clients. And what we see here when we look in the EU is that the biggest opportunity lies in Romania, Poland, and Spain. Whereas that's just one bit of information in terms of the most opportunity to actually succeed. We can then look at competition. Which markets are the most competitive? And what kind of bids could it cost for those particular keywords or search terms if you were to enter today? And what this allows you to do is to understand, A, the demand that you may face, B, have a really kind of accurate forecast as to how much it may cost to enter into one of these auctions abroad, and then C, we also translate the words inside the tool so you can just copy and paste them into your campaign straight from the tool. So it's a fantastic tool to understand the sales opportunities that actually exist abroad in your markets. Next, we have the Consumer Barometer. So the Consumer Barometer is fantastic. It's essentially a survey that we send out to all of our markets, and it's the same kind of customized survey that is standardized for each and every one of you. And we ask real users, how do they search and what different behaviors can we expect, digitally speaking, in different markets. So how does someone search for shirts in Brazil versus in the UK? How often do they use their mobile phone daily? How often do they watch YouTube videos, whatever it might be? So this is a fantastic tool that you guys can use to understand an audience before you go into it. Because Wolfgang and you guys yourself can't just create a strategy out of thin air, especially when we're talking about a foreign market that we need to enter into. If we're going for Brazil, we'll need to be able to understand how they search and understand what they expect from the kind of digital strategy you put forward. Next, we have Google Trends. So you guys might have used this before, and it's a really handy tool, especially because it gives you a lovely graph. But there's two really interesting things you guys can do with Google Trends that I'll share with you now. The first one is you can actually understand how your new audience searches. So for example, we compare those search terms there and see the differences in demand. So we can see that people tend to search for buy shirts more than they would for tailored shirts or custom shirts. And this can help you guys make decisions when you're entering a new market into what keywords to put forward as your kind of search strategy. Secondly, we can compare markets instead of keywords. So we can actually pick one keyword and say, how do people search for this keyword across several markets? So in this example, we're looking at shirts online, and we're looking at the UK versus Ireland and the United States. And what you can see is that people actually search in Ireland for the search term shirts online more than the UK and US. But that data on its own is very useless. It doesn't really help you make a decision. You can look at it in terms of the fact that you can see very consistent peaks and troughs happening over time. This can help you forecast for demand uplift and demand troughs. You can also kind of generate some insights in terms of the fact that shirts online is a very generic search term. People might not search for generic search terms in the UK and US. They may be more brand loyal. So perhaps going into the UK and US, you should look at search terms like Tommy Hilfiger shirts or Hugo Boss shirts, the only two brands I know. Cool, so that's Google Trends. Then we have the Google Translate plugin. So this is a really useful snippet of code that you can place onto your site. You've probably seen it. You go onto a site and it goes, this page is in Dutch. We assume you don't speak Dutch. Would you like this to be translated to English? And you go, yes. So it's a really handy free plugin that you can add onto your site that can internationalize your website in seconds. And a really important stat to understand with this is that people are 4 times more likely to purchase from you if they can go onto your site and navigate it in their local language. So if you don't have this in your suite of arsenal of products, you're going to be missing out on lots of international traffic. Finally, we have the Google Translate Toolkit. Think of this like AdWords editor for Google Translate. You can upload search campaigns, you can upload ads, you can take entire digital strategies and translate them in seconds. And again, it's all for free. This works for documents, this works for everything else, so it's a really useful tool to have. So that's kind of an example of what the Google Translate Toolkit can do, translate your ads very, very quickly. So what all this boils down to is coming up with a way to take all that information, which I know has been thrown at you. You can find it afterwards or come chat with me after during the Prosecco break, which I'm looking forward to. But understanding your business comes core first. So understand yourself first and then understand your audience. Seek to understand and then to be understood. If you think of it this way, like Rob said earlier, you can factor in a lot of these kind of barriers and make them a strength for you, like the exchange rate. If sterling is strong and the euro is weak, could you increase your profit margins by going into that market versus another market where the dollar is weak and the euro is strong? Taking all of these things into account and doing your research can aid you guys to make a really good decision about what markets to enter and ultimately make the decision a lot clearer for you in the end. So, 3 key takeaways, because everything in Google is always done in threes. First one, my key takeaway and ask for you guys is to become an export chameleon, okay? Enter into those new markets, understand them, and adapt to what they are looking for. The audience always chooses what the audience wants, and it's up to you guys as small, medium, or large businesses to adapt to that and become what they're looking for. So become an export chameleon. Secondly is research, then do some more research, and then follow that up with a little bit more research. But not like this guy. If you actually look closely at the slide, it really annoys me. That data means absolutely nothing, and it couldn't possibly mean anything for anyone. Do your research, but don't do it for the sake of saying, oh, I'm doing it and it's what we were told to do, but never actually taking any action from it. Do it to understand what you guys are trying to achieve. So ask yourself the question first, what am I trying to find? What's the purpose behind me doing this research? And then it'll be a lot easier for you to set out and actually find a clear path to what your export destination is going to be. And my final tip is a really simple one, which is just learn to grow. I mean, too often do we look at export as something that large customers do, like your Coca-Colas and your Amazons. It's not just for them. $1.4 trillion is out there, and then that's up for stake for everyone from Coca-Cola to Amazon to that small sweet shop in Kilkenny that Marie spoke about earlier. So taking a look inwards at your company and just envisaging that you could possibly become an export champion in a really short space of time, and that partnering with an agency like Wolfgang, who've done this 10 times over and have championed it, is a real possibility that isn't just fairy dust. So thanks a million for your time, and again, I'll be around for questions afterwards.
Thanks very much. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much, Stephen. And Stephen didn't mention the word, and it almost feels like you don't have to mention the word, but Stephen, that's all free. Yep. All those tools, like, freely available to the 3 million people on the planet who are online, like, and that kind of thinking, which is, you know, it's a totally new generation of business. That's why I think Google are the most significant company of our lifetime. In fact, they developed these tools and just put them out there and let us all use them for free. Phenomenal. So, next talk, right? This one was kind of born out of your feedback, actually. After the last event, in the feedback forum, a couple of people said you'd love to learn a little bit more about attribution. And the way things are going over the last year and a half, it's becoming a more important, more critical issue. So I'm delighted to welcome to the stage David and Zoran, and they're going to talk to you about the 3 dimensions of channel attribution.
Thanks, sir. All right, hi everybody. So right now me and Zoran are going to talk about attribution. And the reason why we need to have this conversation is because, like Al was saying, like we've seen all throughout the day, is that people are spending more time online, and as a result, businesses are spending more and more money online. And what happens is they're creating more channels and new channels in which to create new interaction points for people to engage with. And this makes attributing success to these individual channels more and more difficult. I just want to point out here at this point that a lot of the examples we're going to go through focus on revenue and e-commerce, but the principles apply just the same for any lead generation businesses, both e-commerce and business to business or business to consumer. So we'll jump right in and look at the first dimension, which is the channel report. And I'm sure most of you have seen it already. What it does is it looks at all your different channels in terms of sessions, users, transactions, revenue goals, and things like that. So in this example, this is telling us that paid search is absolutely killing it, which is what I love to see. But and that display is doing all right and email is kind of doing okay, but really it's not telling us anything because it's assuming that all these channels are working in isolation and they're not working, but we know that they're actually working together a lot. And we can see this by looking at the multi-channel or the top conversion path. And this is a typical example of how someone engages with your site. So they find your site through organic search, go back via paid search, then via organic search, and then paid search, and finally convert. Now, using the channel report, all that conversion is going to be attributed to paid search. But I have to hold my hand up and say organic does deserve some of the credit there. And this just kind of goes to demonstrate that conversions and purchases aren't that simple, that there's a lot of consideration involved. They can be really simple, like choose between ketchup and catsup, or they can be really convoluted. This is an example from one of our clients' accounts, and like a nightmare to get your head around. But you can have an idea of how long a path or a conversion, how many paths it takes to make a conversion on your site by looking at the path length report. And this basically tells you how many interactions it takes for someone to make a conversion on your site. So in this example, 31% are making conversions after just one interaction, but the vast majority are making conversions after 69%. There's loads of channels being activated and interactions happening that are assisting that conversion, which is why we need to kind of look at these a bit closer and talk about the second dimension, which is assisted conversions. So what are assisted conversions? Just to give you an example, this is your typical conversion path. This is your last click, and your assisted conversions are all these paths along the way that help to make that conversion happen. This is the first click, and this is the last non-direct click. So this is the attribution that Google Analytics uses by default. So to make sense of all this and how they work together, I want to show you this assisted conversion report. And you can ignore most of the information for the time being and just focus on the last column, this metric here. And this kind of tells you the relationship of that these channels have within we'll say the funnel. And the metric is your assisted conversions divided by your last click conversions. So metric close to 1 tells you that this channel tends to assist conversions just as much as it drives last click conversions. Metric less than 1 tells us that this channel tends to generate more last click conversions, so probably operates closer to the bottom of the funnel. And a figure greater than 1 tells us that this channel tends to assist more, and so probably lives closer to the top of the funnel. If you look at a particular example, email here is a metric of nearly 3. So for every 1 last click conversion, it's generating an additional 3 assisted conversions. And we look at it all together, we can see that the assisted conversion column, and both the conversions and the values, we can see there's a lot of revenue going through there that are assisting other channels that mightn't necessarily be recognized in the channel report. So it can lead you to overvalue or undervalue certain channels, which can lead to kind of bad decision making. But it gets a bit more complicated because, like with the channel report, which assumes that every channel works in isolation, the assisted conversion report makes the assumption that each interaction are exactly the same. It treats them all as equal, but we know they're not equal. And we have to consider things like the time lag report, which factors in how long it takes to make a conversion on the site. And just to put this into context, I'm going to show you 2 examples. I'm going to ask you a question. Actually, sorry, I'm going to show you this first. 47% in this case happened within the same day they got to the site, where the vast majority happened up to 30 days before the conversion actually happened. So again, I'm going to show you those 2 examples. So if you look at assigning conversion value to assisted conversions, would you put the same weight in this interaction that happened 28 days ago, or the same interaction that happened 2 days ago? You'd probably value the one that happened 2 days ago more because it was closer to when the conversion actually happened. We also need to look at these metrics like pages per session, bounce rate, page depth. These are all really important metrics because they give an idea of how people interact with your site. These are kind of engagement metrics that we look at. We know that they're important to you. And I'm going to show you this as well. Time on site, would you value this interaction, which kept someone on the site for 3 seconds, the same as you'd value this interaction that's kept someone on the site for 5 minutes. The one that kept you for 5 minutes is a lot more valuable. So you'd love to assign more revenue to that one. So we can see there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's conversions, there's other channels assisting conversions, and there's lots of metrics, behavioral metrics that are kind of messing everything up along the way. So it's a lot to take in. So to help you answer some of these questions, I'm going to invite Zoran up to talk to you.
Thank you, David. So to really wrap our heads around all this complexity, we need to start talking about multi-channel attribution. So to make this easy for us, let's first look at some default attribution models. So the first one is last interaction attribution model. It just gives the last interaction 100% of the credit. In this case, we're going to represent a direct channel with this little icon. So it's like giving the last speaker today all the credit for a great conference. So Alan would get all the credit. It's bad for attribution. Next one, we have last non-direct click attribution model. It's very similar to the previous one, but it ignores the last interaction if it's direct. Like David said, this is the one that Google Analytics uses. The next one is first interaction, which is simply the opposite of the last interaction attribution model. All the value, all the credit goes to the first interaction. Following that, we have linear attribution model. It simply credits all the channels that contributed to the conversion equally. We know that this is not really a good model because we know that not all channels are equal. So, for example, later on in a last man standing quiz, we'll only give up 2 prizes away. So you can't all be winners. And it's same thing goes for channels. Next one, we have slightly better model that is called a time decay model. It gives more credit to those interactions that were closer to the conversion. And finally, we have a position-based model that credits first interaction and the last interaction more and divides the rest between middle interactions equally. So some are good, some are not so good, but basically they're all just assumptions about how people interact with your business online. And in an ideal world, we would create a custom attribution model. So it might look something like this. I'm going to zoom in every part of this and explain what you can actually do. So for example, let's say we like the position-based attribution model, but would like to kind of switch those percentages up. So for example, let's say we want to go from 40-20-40 to 50-20-30. So this model, you can actually turn into this model. So last interaction would get a little more, first one would get a little less, and we will divide differently in the middle interactions. So second one is a look-back window. So you probably already know what makes sense for your business, the consideration period for really deciding about your products or services. So this is where you should apply that. Next one is what David mentioned earlier. So do we want to credit channels differently based on their engagement on the site? So he gave an example about average time on site. Let's say we're going to use page views. So let's say that email generated 3 page views, AdWords generated 4, and display generated 2 pages. So this model would basically become this model. So AdWords would get slightly more, display would get slightly less. And finally, we can become really granular. We can get really granular with our rules. And let's say one of the rules we want to apply is we don't want to credit any campaigns, any channels that bounced. So for example, we would write up this rule and would turn this model into this model. So let's say that display bounced. In this case, it would get zero credit. So this kind of concludes this talk about looking at three-dimensional view of your channels. So David talked about that channel overview report. It gives you a first dimensional looking at channels, and what really you should only use it to understand, yes, multiple channels are driving traffic to my site. And then when you go into top conversion paths and assisted conversion, you understand that second dimension, you understand that they work together, which is like the main point of today's talks, is they work together, they help each other, they're not independent of each other. And finally, when you got that real fitting attribution model, you understand their value, and you're finally looking at channels in a 3D view. However, that takes a lot of effort. So you have all this complexity about different channels, different paths, all the engagement metric, look-back windows. It's a lot of stuff. However, Google now makes it pretty easy for us. So Konstantin mentioned earlier artificial intelligence. So this is what Google uses to just make this a bit easier for us. So machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence that gives computer ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So, and it actually can grow and change over time. One of the examples is Facebook newsfeed, so not the Google example, we'll get to that. So Facebook newsfeed, when you scroll through your newsfeed, and if you tend to stop on your particular friend's post, you tend to like and share their posts, you will start seeing more and more of their posts in your newsfeed, and they will be higher up in your newsfeed. And if you stop doing that over time, their posts will be demoted. So in a similar way, Google uses this to look at data-driven attribution model. So what they essentially do is they look at all your conversion paths, all the different channel mixes, and all the different sequences of channels, and they calculate the likelihood of them converting in this particular mix and in this particular sequence. So what you might get in the end is an attribution model. So in the next screen, I'm going to show you a model that was automatically generated by Google. So you'll see darker colors. They simply mean more value goes to those channels in those positions, and lighter colors mean that less value goes there. So you might see something like this. So in this screen, we can clearly see that more of the darker colors are to the right-hand side of the screen. That means closer to the conversion. So, and if you look on the left side, you see lighter colors and smaller percentages. So if you remember time decay model from earlier, where it basically means that more value goes to those interactions closer to the conversion, this is what actually Google automatically gave us. So this is kind of a custom time decay attribution model. It might look something completely different for your business. Finally, we have this in AdWords as well. So we can actually now analyze how different AdWords campaigns work with each other and how they help each other to get the conversion. So we know that a lot of our brand campaigns convert because they were previously informed by our clicks on generic campaigns. So using this in AdWords, we can finally give those generic campaigns credit they really deserve. So key takeaways from today is we really need to look at channels in a way that you understand that they interact with each other. So they're not isolated channels. When you understand whether they tend to assist or tend to be the last but before conversion, it's a really important to make really a good informed decisions. And finally, finding that real attribution model, the one that fits your business, gives you that complete 3D view of your channels, and then you can really have an informed decision on how much to invest and what to really do in each one of those. And don't be afraid of artificial intelligence. It might look scary, but it's actually our friend. Thank you.